What's up, y'all? I'm back out here on the range, as you can see behind me, on a pretty dreary day out here. It's been raining for 3 days straight. The rain finally stopped. It actually was drizzling a little bit still this morning, but supposed to be completely cloudy and humid out here all day. Luckily, the temp's only supposed to hit about 72 or so by the time I leave here. And with the clouds, hopefully it'll keep that sun covered up so it ain't steamy out here. But this little bit of weather definitely ain't gonna stop me from getting some tests done. I've got some really interesting stuff planned for today, and we're gonna start it out with some spicy 45 ACP. So we got the jelly contraption set up ready to go with a couple of chronos and 2 farm fresh blocks of gel here. First test of the day, so you get a really nice clear picture of what happens. Of course, as always, I've got my heavy clothing barrier up front with a layer of denim, fleece, and 2 layers of cotton t-shirt. And what we got here is some spicy 45 ACP that was sent to me. I'm not sure if they wanted their name out there, so we'll just call them D. I really appreciate that. What we're looking at here, as you can see, is the Liberty Ammo Overwatch 45 ACP. Now, if y'all aren't familiar with this Liberty Ammo, it's the really fast, light for caliber, super fast stuff. It's a solid copper fragmenting projectile. It completely fragments. I'll go ahead and show you here. Fragments all the way around right here into a bunch of little pieces, and then you've got that center disc that keeps on rolling. Now, the Overwatch line here, as you can see, has got this black coating on it, so it's got the dark coating. There you can see the projectile. It's a coated, again, solid copper projectile. Now, their Overwatch line is a little different than the standard and the ultralight. They've got the standard civil defense. They've got the ultralight, which is the same weight projectile as the civil defense, just in the shell shock cases. And then they've got this Overwatch line, which has the black coated case, and it's a little bit heavier projectile. As you can see here, these are 105 grains, saying 1,600 feet per second. Now, those of y'all who've watched my channel much already know my feelings on these right here. I don't think they're terrible by any means, and they do exactly what they say they're going to do. They fragment just like they say, and that center piece keeps on trucking to right around 12 inches, so I expect the same here. I'm just not a big fan of the really light weight of the projectiles, but if I were going to run one of these civil defense rounds in any caliber, it would definitely be the Overwatch line, because at 105 grains, you're getting back on up there where I feel a little more comfortable. Now, he actually asked me to run these things out of the G30 and my 4 1/4 inch Commander, and I totally spaced out and picked up my 1911 instead of the Commander. So I think the main thing he wanted to see was the G30. I can just tell you right now that these things don't fail out of really any barrel length, unless you just talking, I mean, some 1/2 inch barrel or something. These things are going to get the job done regardless. So I've got a couple of different barrel lengths here. We've got the G30 that's got the 3.8 inch barrel, and then I've got my Rock Island Armory 1911 with the 5 inch barrel. So regardless of how I personally feel about these light rounds, they're definitely going to do what they're supposed to do. Let's get this stuff set up and check them out. All right, let's see what kind of numbers we can get. I'm going to do a 5-round average from each barrel length. We'll start with the G30 here first. Now remember, they're saying 1,600 feet per second. They never list a barrel length, but I'm guessing since this is 45 ACP, it would be 5 inch, but they usually meet or exceed the velocity. So hopefully we don't have any issues. Now, you will see multiple readings from this radar. The large numbers right here at the muzzle, and then you've got 5 across the bottom. The first one there is set for 3 yards, which is roughly where the gel is here at 10 feet. And then you've got the other set for 10, 15, 25, and 50. Hopefully we don't have any issues right here, but we'll find out what happens. Loud stuff, no doubt. 15, 19, definitely loud. 14, 43, 15, 77, 15, 47, and 1568, so pretty consistent. Let's check out the average. Well, I said pretty consistent, all except for one of those rounds. We had a 5-round average of 1531. Our extreme spread was 134 with a standard deviation of 53.8, and that's because we had a low all the way down to 1443 with a high of 1577. I'll have to look back, but I feel like all the rest of the rounds were close to or around to that 1500 mark. I think that 1443 was a low outlier. 1531, I mean, there's still no doubt it's going to do what it's supposed to do in the gel. Let me get it reset and see what the 1911 does. All right, let's see what this 5-inch barrel does for it. I suspect we're going to be all over 1600 with this, probably a little bit over with at least some of them. 1647, that's what I figured. 1633, 1622, Another 1622. Uh-oh. Had a failure to feed right there. I think that's the first time I might have ever had that on this Rock Island right here. Let's do one more here. And 1611, so that time I think it was pretty consistent. Let's check out the average. All right, much better consistency right here, and the velocity got on up there. We had a 5-round average that time of 1627, so I mean that's knocking on the door of the kind of energy we saw out of that Grizzly 185 stuff, so that's really nice out of the 5-inch. Extreme spread, much better there, as you can see, with 36 and a 13.6 standard deviation. Now that one failed to feed, I don't know what that was all about. I will tell you, I actually cleaned this 1911 last night for the first time in who knows how long, so it might like being dirty better than being clean. I was going to mention when we were looking at these projectiles at first that that is a very cool looking projectile, just because I mean it looked like a big old shot glass. You got the really thin walled big old opening. Not saying that's what caused the fail to feed, because I've run some crazy rounds to this 1911. Who knows what it was, but anyway, 1627 right here. And if you remember out of the G30, it was 1531, so you're right at 196 feet per second faster. I suspect though that's because of that really low outlier. If it weren't for that, I mean our average would be on up there closer to 1550, 1560, somewhere around in there, 75 maybe even. All that being said, again, I have no doubt these things are going to do exactly what they claim to do in the gel, but let's get it reset and y'all know what time it is. All right, y'all, it's skinny fat jelly time. I'm gonna put one through each barrel length into the gel, starting with this G30 here. Again, I already know it's gonna do what it's supposed to do. Hey, I'll be incredibly surprised if it doesn't. You're gonna see massive fragmentation almost immediately in 12, 13 inches, I would say, since this is a little bit heavier. All right. That should have been perfect. I see a little something weird down there at the end. Hopefully nothing crazy happened. Let me go check it out. All right, nothing surprising down there. As y'all already saw, it did exactly what it claimed to do. It might have fell a little bit short of the 12-inch mark. We'll have to look. It looks a little bit short, but pretty much right where it's supposed to be. So this 1911 is going to do more of the same thing, guaranteed. All right. Ooh, I think we got some curving on that one. It might have actually curved out the top. Let me go check it out. All right, let's check his stuff out down here. This is very surprising and not at all what I expected to see with this 1911. I don't remember offhand ever seeing this do this right here. As you can see here, up on the top we'll start. The G30 did what it always does. Comes in here, immediate energy transfer. I mean, huge disruption, huge transfer of energy. Keeps on trucking through the block. Now, like I mentioned, I think this is a little short of 12 inches right here. It's maybe around 11. It could be right at 12. But as you can see, you've got that center disc that kept going. This is what it does almost every time I've tested this in any caliber. Like I've talked about before, this really wouldn't be my first choice for sure, because I just want something heavy lead that's got more penetration than this right here. But this being 105 is a little better than some of the very light stuff. But then if we drop down to the 1911, this acted totally different than what it's supposed to do, and completely different from what I've seen in the past. As you can see, it comes in here, nice disruption, no doubt about it. It immediately expands instead of fragmenting all the pieces, because as you can see here, it actually curves down, the projectile does, and you can see it's mostly intact still. You got some fragmentation, obviously, because as you can see, one of the petals or one of the pieces went upwards away from the main chunk there, and it sailed right on out the top of the block there. So very interesting how this right here acted. Now, as far as the penetration on them, we'll start with the G30 up top. Yeah, that one's actually at 10 1/4, so 10 1/4 inches on that. Again, you know, like I mentioned on some of the other stuff that gets just really weak penetration but has this massive energy transfer, I feel like this would most likely do the job if you put this in the right place. But me personally, I would definitely like to see more penetration than that. And in the 1911 here, the main chunk of the projectile actually went out to 10 inches, so it's almost the same as this G30. You just didn't get any of the fragmentation for whatever reason. Now, that other piece of the fragment here, it went out the top at 15.5. It may have went a little further, who knows, but that's very, very odd for this type of round. And here's just some close-up looks. You can see on the top there, I mean, that did exactly what it's supposed to do. Massive energy transfer, keeps on trucking. Now, both of these had an interesting little bubble right there, right before the end of the projectile, and there you can see that one. That's the disc. That's exactly what it's supposed to do. But then if we come back here to the 1911, you can see it comes in here, no fragmentation like they're supposed to do, and then it splits off. Down there at the bottom, you can see that's the main chunk, the main projectile. It looks like an expanding hollow point from this direction here, and then you had that other piece. We'll back it up a little bit. It sailed on out. You got that little bubble right there from that piece of shrapnel there and on out the top. And if we look here from above, they're stacked pretty much on top of each other, but you can see there just very, very odd behavior from this stuff this time. The one on the top, G30, done like normal. And you can look down at the bottom, there's a lot of cloth in that opening from what I can tell from here, but that really shouldn't have had any effect on the fragmentation. All right, let's take a look at these projectiles, y'all. We got some really cool stuff to look at right here. This is not at all what I thought it was. So this right here obviously is the bottom piece, the disc from the G30 on top there. It looks exactly what it's supposed to look like. As you can see, the walls broke all the way off around it. You can see they just broke off all the way down to the base, fragmented all the pieces, and this thing kept on trucking. That's exactly what they're supposed to do. Now this, on the other hand, this is from the 1911. This is not at all what I thought it was. I thought this was this base we were looking at right here, and we saw this piece right here, and it looked like an expanded round. From the side, it looks like an expanded round, and that looks like the base, but as you can see, that is not at all the case. This is the opening, the mouth of the hollow point, and this is the actual base that was connected to your disc right here. So that would have been the round. Now obviously the bottom wouldn't be flared out, but there's your round. So it did break off like it was supposed to break off, but it didn't fragment at all. That's actually not what you're supposed to get, but that's very, very cool that it managed to break off like that at those velocities and didn't fragment at all. I mean, check that out, y'all. It like it scored kind of, you got the scores there, the breaks around it, but it just didn't break off. That's really, really cool. And it does make sense now, because I was wondering why the cavitation from that disc, that makes sense. But then you had that little cavitation area from a pedal, which did not make sense. But that was the disc. That was the base that kept on going out the top right there. But let's get us some numbers. This ought to be interesting to see. Now they both started at 105. This disc from the G30 is down to 51.2. So 51.2, I mean, that's more than half of the material loss. That's one thing I'm not real crazy about with these rounds. And then this one here, this one is at 54.4, so 51.2, and there you go. There's your 105, 106 right there. So that's exactly what it's supposed to weigh. That's just really, really interesting to me that we've managed to catch a base and the rest of the entire top part intact. And then as far as the sizes here, I mean, this is going to be kind of weird, but we'll do a diameter and a thickness on this. So this one here, you got 455 with a thickness of 170. And then this right here, I mean, it's really not even, I don't know, it just seems weird here. So you got 571. I mean, I guess that is an expanded piece of copper there. And obviously the opening's smaller. You got 375 there. And then the entire length on this piece that broke off here, you got 410. So there you go, y'all. The Liberty Ammo Overwatch 45 ACP. Definitely some odd behavior right here. Not at all what I expected to see. Now, this is exactly what I expected to see. I was hoping for a little more penetration, because they actually say 13 inches on this right here. Maybe the little bit lower velocity cost it some penetration, who knows, but it did basically what it's supposed to do. And again, you know, it's not my cup of tea, but again, I have to give credit where credit is due. It did basically what it claimed to do. Now this, on the other hand, if I've got to give credit where credit is due, I also have to call a fail, and this is a fail right here. I mean, it would probably still get the job done in most cases if you put it where it needed to go, but this is absolutely not what this round is designed to do. So I think you have to call this a failure. I mean, if I'm going to be fair both ways, I'm going to be fair both ways. That being said, it is very cool to see this. I'm glad it did this just for curiosity's sake, because it looks really cool. How effective that would be, I mean, I don't know. It's 250 grain projectiles basically at the same time. So y'all tell me what you think. Again, this is not personally my cup of tea, but I could see why some folks might like these. All right, y'all, we're gonna call it right there for a pretty interesting 45 ACP test to start today. Definitely some interesting stuff right here. I think, again, if you're being fair, you really have to call that 1911 a failure as far as behaving the way it's designed to behave. It did not design the way it's designed to behave. Now, I guess you could say, well, it did. It fragmented off, but I think we all know that's not what you're supposed to see from these rounds. That being said, if I was choosing one of these, I would rather have the performance from that 1911 just because it didn't fragment all the pieces. In this case, you got more penetration from that one big fragment, and your main chunk still made it to 15 inches and on out the top. But let me know what y'all think about it down in the comments. Any of y'all out there carry the Liberty Civil Defense, the Ultralight, the Overwatch in 45 ACP, or some other caliber? What do you think about the way this 1911 right here behaved? Let me know down in the comments what your thoughts are. A reminder, as always, if you're doing some shopping, hit up those affiliate links in the video description. Lots of really good stuff down there, and anything you pick up helps the channel, so I really do appreciate that. Big thanks as always to my Range Gang members and every single one of y'all for supporting the channel. I've got a couple more really interesting things planned for today, so stay on the lookout for that. And in the meantime, stay safe, stay prepared, and I'll see you soon.